Hey, Amy,
Yeah, Juan?
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amy Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amy Cuevas, and I am Juan Ramirez, and welcome to another episode of Baseball Shangri-La. Let's get the business out of the way. If you're listening to us on the podcast, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Write us a review, rate us, spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up, leave us comments. Make sure to follow us on social media on X at BP Shangri-La, on Instagram, Threads, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. Just before we start the show, I just want to give everyone a heads up. You guys know we have a famous co-host that randomly shows up. There may be another Mookie the dog sighting. He was crying just earlier. I don't know why he's crying. What I realize is Mookie the dog hates being alone. He is just one of those people that constantly needs companionship. So if you guys hear Mookie in the background, it's because he's decided he wants to be a part of the show.
And
Amy,
you've already thrown me off because you were like, Mookie's crying, and I'm like, what? No, wait, what? The game's tied. What are we talking about?
I was talking about Mookie the dog. And
My
if you guys don't know,
my bad.
if you guys don't know who Mookie the dog is, go back and listen to some of our other episodes. But Amy, how are you? How have you been? How was your weekend?
Oh, my weekend was amazing. Got to be at the stadium for one of the games during the Freeway series. So, all good things. The season's almost here. Opening day is so close. How was your
Beautiful.
weekend?
Oh, my weekend was fantastic. I was actually at that same game that you were, and I got to I got to hang out with you for a little bit.
Oh,
And
that's right. That's right. You did.
we got to meet one of our viewers slash listeners. It was really great. Correct me if I'm wrong, Amy. His name was Tony Covarrubias.
No, Jose.
Okay, that's fine.
Covarrubias.
All right,
Yes,
I'm
yes, yes,
starting
yes.
off the show with a base running blunder. I'm
Oh
sorry.
man, you just ruined our streak.
I know that's what. Well, I have another one. So, but it was
Oh no.
great. Look, and I'm putting this out there, guys. If you ever see Amy and I at Dodger Stadium, you guys listen to the show or you watch the show, please feel free to come up to us, talk to us, introduce yourself. I always want to know what it is that you guys like about the show. What would you guys want us to do about the show? If you hate the show or there's something about my personality that just grates out on you, please keep that to yourself. Just all I want to hear is love. I don't want you to tell me how much you hate me. I already have that enough in my house. But it was great. It really took me by surprise. So we mentioned base running blunders. I do have a base running blunder, Amy. So, but we're on the ladies line here. Ladies first. Do you have any before I go?
That I know of, but now you're. No, I don't. I'm going to be confident in my answer. I do not.
Okay, well, I have a base running blunder, and that was last time on the show when I started. I segued into the story of Chan Ho Park and Tim Belcher.
Hey everybody, it's story time!
Yeah, so I went into story time, and I was telling the story about how Chan Ho Park had done this Chuck Norris kick,
Are
and
you
one of
about
our
to burst my bubble? Because I'm still waiting for you to send me that clip, and I was entranced by your
I'm
story.
sorry. I forgot to send you the clip, and that was how I found out that I had a base running blunder because I went to get the clip to go send it to you. I just didn't finish sending it to you because I realized I made a mistake, and I was just horrified, and I just sat there crying, going, "I'm so stupid, 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 stupid."
No.
So, but it was funny because one of our viewers slash it was one of our viewers, Juan Ramos, had pointed out that more than likely it wasn't like kung fu or karate that Chan Ho was doing. It was more than likely it was taekwondo. But the way I had told the story was that Tim Belcher had charged the mound and then Chan Ho did the spinning kick. It was the other way around, guys. Chan Ho was hitting, okay?
Wait, what? Plot twist? Okay,
yes.
Go on. Dun, dun, dun.
No. I have one better for you. Not only was it a plot twist, but yeah. See, what had happened was, so Chan Ho was at the plate, and he hit a little squibbler back to the mound. Tim Belcher fielded it, and as Chan Ho was running towards first base, Tim Belcher tagged him out. And he kind of kept his glove on Chan Ho a little longer than I think Chan Ho wanted. So Chan Ho got mad, and he pushed Tim Belcher. Then Tim Belcher got mad because Tim Belcher's a red ass. And then it started, they started huffing and puffing. And that's when Chan Ho went full Taekwondo and did the spinning kick. So I want to correct the record. It was my mistake. I had it the other way around. So my bad, folks. I will take the base running error on that one. Nothing to do with you, Amy. I'm sorry that I broke your streak, but we will start with a new streak.
All right, back to 0 days since our last base running blunder. Here we go.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My bad. So now we're going to go to the update desk this is the set part of the show where we update past stories that we have covered on the show. So let's go head over to the update desk with Amy.
Wow, that was very dramatic. I like it.
As you can see, our budget went up on the show, guys. We're having fun with sound effects, and we're using all the sound effects as much as we can today. Amy, you have an update for us on the gondola story.
Yeah, there have been a couple of articles out. So Odyssey.com by the City News Service and the LA Daily News or the Los Angeles Daily News posted some information. So as you know from our last episode, there was a council district meeting on March 22nd. The motion did pass. So now there is going to be a traffic study. So the council members did approve a $500,000 traffic study. So for those of you keeping score at home, the thing that's not supposed to cost any money to the public, we're now at 500,000. So now no further actions can go forward until this traffic study is done. And if you listen to one of the previous episodes, we haven't actually had one since 1990. So that's going into effect. It was an 11-2 vote. It was backed by council member I'm going to butcher her name, Eunices Hernandez. And only 2 people voted against it, so McCosker and Lee. So what we learned from this is that it does not suspend all work on the project. The developers can continue to work with city staff on process issues while the study progresses. So what it is still proposing is the 3 stations, 13-story towers. They will be at Alameda Street, across from Union Station, the LA State Historic Park, and then atop Chavez Ravine. So that was the vote itself. Did you have anything to add before I jump into the other piece of news? Oh, well, you are muted. So we're not going to base running blunder. I'm going to pull you back in, buddy.
I'm sorry. God, I'm really struggling at the start of this show already. I hit unmute. And the thing is, the reason why I go on mute is because I'm fat and I breathe heavily into the mic. So
don't say that about my podcast partner. Don't talk about him like that.
I don't want to be like Darth Vader on the podcast, and people are like, "Who exactly? What the hell's going on?" Because I know that's annoying. What I wanted to add was that the traffic survey motion, for at least for me, and you may have additional information for this, Amy. You mentioned the councilwoman's name, Eunices Hernandez. I think she should be a real champion for this because she represents Chinatown. And Chinatown is the part of Los Angeles that is going to be most impacted by the gondola. So the fact that she has spearheaded, and I feel like she's been at the forefront of this to do everything possible, and she really is representing her constituents. Look, I know we complain a lot about our political leaders, but we should give them their flowers when they do what they should be doing. And so my hat's off. I just wanted to throw that out there. My hat's off to Eunices Hernandez because I think she played a big part in the motion for this survey. So
That one
I'm telling you,
that one startled me, but luckily nobody could see my face when it went off.
I'm telling you, people, we have budget now on the show, and we are using all of these before the show is over. Amy, you have another update.
Yeah, and to echo what you said, she has spearheaded a lot of this for Council District 1. She's put in a lot of time working with the community and getting this to move forward. So kudos to her. The other part is that on Monday, let's see here, where are my notes? The Los Angeles Parks and Alliance announced the lawsuit that they had already mentioned prior to this against the transit agency under the California environmental laws. So they are suing LA Metro, basically saying that this whole project violates the California Environmental Quality Act. So that is something that has started as of Monday. And so we'll see what that does with the project. The idea is the people that are against the gondola are trying to shelve this. Some of the information that did come out of this is that a lot of the people do prefer adding to existing methods of the traffic reducing options. So things that we've already discussed on previous episodes, things like the Dodgers Stadium Express or a walk up to the stadium. There are concerns about gentrifying the historic immigrant community. And so as far as ZET, their statement is that if this goes forward, they can take at least 3,000 cars off the road. And that's without a traffic study. So these are their projections, not necessarily anything backed by a report at this point. What I found interesting is from I think our first episode reporting on this, I think it was the LA Times or it was one of the other articles reported something close to 18,889 spaces. So if that's the amount of parking spaces we have at Dodger Stadium, if we're reducing it by 3,000 cars, that is a significant amount of cars. But if they're not parking at the stadium, those cars are parking in the neighborhoods. So you're still going to have a lot of people in the stadium, which is, I think, what the community is echoing at this point. We need different options. And so that's kind of what we're getting right now between this lawsuit and also with the motion to suspend the project until a traffic study can be done.
And let me tell you, on Sunday when I was at Dodger Stadium, parking is now $35. That's at the stadium. I know you have the option of buying parking online for a cheaper rate, and I don't know what it is this year because, like many people, I got there early and I did not park in the stadium. I parked in those said neighborhoods that Amy just mentioned, and traffic is a nightmare in those said neighborhoods after a Dodger game or even before a Dodger game. So the only thing I want to add to this story before we move on, Amy, is so Sunday I was at the Dodger game, and as I was walking into the stadium through the parking lot, and I don't know if you guys have noticed this before because it was there last year. There was a prototype of the cabin for the gondola. Well, they have a new, I don't know if it's a prototype, but they have a new cabin sitting out in the parking lot. And to my surprise, Amy, I'm walking by and that cabin is covered with Pantone 294 advertising. Now, for those who, and some of you may be familiar with Pantone 294, it is a Dodger fan group. They travel on the road. They actually even go to Dodger Stadium as a group. I am strictly just talking about this in the sense of how it applies to the gondola. I saw it on Sunday, and then on Monday on their Instagram, Pantone 294 posted the picture of the cabin, and they took a lot of strays on that post. And one of the first posts that I saw, one of the first comments that I saw on that post, I found very interesting, and that was I don't know what you would call him, but he was just like, look, I wish you guys would be transparent in terms of what is your relationship with this project, because Amy, in the post that Pantone 294 put, they put it was in cooperation with LA.
The actual post itself says, took us 8 months to get it done and working with at LA Art_Gondola, which is the Gondola Project. Going to the game tonight, make sure to stop by the gondola, sitting in the parking lot by left field, take a pic and tag us for a chance to win some swag.
So the reason why I bring this up is because there were a lot of comments on there. There were a lot of people that were not happy because the impression comes off that when Pantone 294's advertising is all over this cabin, that means you guys are supporting the gondola. And that's how a lot of people on this post took it. And that's why their comments were like, look, we're very disappointed about this. I have not seen a post since with them clarifying what their stance is, what their relationship is with the gondola. And the reason why I bring this up is in that short documentary, and my apologies, I forget who was the filmmaker that made the documentary on the gondola. But in there, there's a clip, there's a scene in that documentary where there is a woman advocating for the documentary, and the interviewer asks her, where does she live? And she lives on the west side. And
It's Eric Kelly.
they And so they ask her, "Well, would you feel the same way if it was being built in your neighborhood?" And then she said, "Well, no, I would feel differently. That's a different story." There have been reports that LA Art or the people behind the gondola have been trying what's the fair way of saying this, Amy?
I only know it in in sign language, it would be like not buttering people up, but like I don't know. I can't think of the English word for it.
I don't want to go as far as to say as bribing these people but there have been reports that they were giving out backpacks, that they're trying to get support that way.
Scholarships, turkeys.
Yes, all that stuff. So my thing is this: I would be very curious because Pantone said they have been working on it for 8 months. Did Pantone pay this group to put their advertising on the cabin, or is there some quid pro quo going on here? We will allow you to put your advertising in this cabin if you help us spread the word about the gondola. Because here's the other thing that surprised me, Amy. As I walked past the gondola, one of the Dodgers parking lot employees directed me over to sign a petition, and she had said to me, "It's almost approved." And I didn't want to be that guy, but I turned around to her to be like, "No, that's not true. It's not almost approved. And I'm not going to sign that petition because I don't support this project." So I do, and this is the reason why we are taking so much time on this story, guys. It is important, and it seems like from that Pantone 294 post, it seems like there's a lot of people that are informed about the gondola, especially those people who live in the neighborhoods that are going to be affected by the gondola. So we are going to continue to be on top of this story, and we will continue to give you updates. Amy,
Well, and the challenge with that too is that a lot of people, their only experience with Dodger fans, especially in other states, is when Pantone 294 goes into a stadium. And I think the misconception is they represent all Dodger fans, and they don't. And this is one of those instances where I don't want people thinking that Pantone 294 speaks for me. So we have a different stance on the gondola, and they are entitled to theirs too. But I think that's part of the misconception is where they are a group, they organize experiences, and people have a lot of fun doing that stuff. But when it comes to things like this, it can be very polarizing. And that's where, to your point, making sure all the information is out there is important so that people can make an informed choice on how they want to look at that topic or that issue.
And like I said, my question to them, and if they have an open invitation, if they want to come on to the show to answer this question in terms of what their relationship, if they want to be clear what their relationship is with the Gondola Project, if they support it, or if there is something else going on here, because this is a project that we believe is going to hurt the community. So That's the option. And it seems like I'm not the only one that has that question, because there were quite a few people asking that question on their post, and they have yet to clarify it. So, and we'll see if they do. And if they end up clarifying it, and we know what their stance is on it. But it's there at Dodger Stadium. So the next time you go through Dodger Stadium, you can see for yourself the cabin is completely covered in 294. So if you're going to do that, to me, that makes me feel you endorse the project. I am not going to allow people to put my face on something unless I'm endorsing it. But if they got paid for this, that's a different story. And again, they would have to owe that explanation to their followers and the people that are involved. It was just something that surprised me when I was at the game. Well, let's move on to some more happy news here, guys. So Shohei Ohtani finally spoke. So he put out a statement that he read. Amy was there. So, Amy, why don't you take us? You were there on Sunday.
Yeah, I was like, whoa.
No. Let me finish. Let me finish. Okay. Amy was there on Sunday. That was the day that Shohei had come into the clubhouse and told the reporters that he was going to speak on Monday. So then early Monday, it comes out that he's just going to read a statement and he's not going to ask questions. And I know it was a madhouse when you went on Sunday, Amy, in a press capacity, but Monday was even worse. It was even bonkers. Amy, your overall impressions on the statement that Shohei read?
I mean, I still don't. I'm still kind of playing my opinion close to the vest, just because at this point, what I believe and what everybody else believes, we're seeing that all play out on Twitter. I think with this, you can see that the players are standing with Ohtani on it. Kike Hernandez, Joe Kelly walked in with them. I could not find it as far as a report, but I thought I heard it on like Sportsnet LA afterwards, that one of the guys was joking that, we saw Kike there and he mentioned that he was going to be interpreting for the Latin players or something like that. I cannot find the quote anywhere, but I swear I heard that on Sportsnet LA. So can't corroborate it. But Max Muncy has, who we know doesn't really mince words, especially when he's being interviewed by the media. He doesn't say anything he doesn't want to. He even came out and said, we're all behind him. I believe him 100%. I have his back on that. So the players are behind him. What was your take on it?
For those who aren't familiar, I'm just going to summarize. He basically read a statement saying that he never bet on sports. He never authorized payments to an illegal bookmaker. And he said he was a victim of theft. I'm summarizing, but that was pretty much what his statement had said. Amy, I got to tell you, I was actually surprised he went that far. I really thought, first of all, this was another meeting that should have been an email. If he was not going to take questions, I think they should have just released this statement. At the same time, I can see
people aren't going to let it drop, though. They want to hear from him. So he's damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. He releases a statement, doesn't take questions, but it's just a written statement. People are going to have negative feedback. He releases a statement. If he is working with some of the investigations, then at this point he can't really comment much, and that's going to get backlash because now he's not answering our questions. Depending on where you fall on the spectrum of he's guilty, he's innocent. Let's say he's innocent. Either way, what do you want the guy to do? Like he's in a no-win situation either way, whether he is guilty or whether he is innocent. He's in a no-win situation.
That I agree with you with that. Because regardless of what happens in this situation, I think his image has been tarnished. Even if he's cleared, even if it's proven that Ipe ripped him off, it's exactly what you said. There are people who are not going to let it go. There are people who are already convinced that he did it, that Ipe is the fall guy. And even like I said, if it's proven that Ipe, it still looks bad for Shohei, because it looks like, dude, you don't have your house in order. you're 30 years old and you don't like look at your finances. And so I guess
That's a
going
lot of stones for people to be throwing too, though, when everybody has their own living situation. And, it is we all have different living situations. I'll just leave it at that. So, however he's handling his, this is what has come of it. So, he's dealing with those repercussions.
and they bring up an excellent point there, because I do think I've been hearing a lot of examples of like, well, if I was missing a certain amount, I would notice. It's like, guys, we don't live in the same world that Shohei lives in. Okay. This guy obviously makes as much money where he doesn't notice that there's $4.5 million missing from his account.
It's not like
Like,
he's the first celebrity or famous person that this has happened to. There are plenty of, and again, wherever you fall on the spectrum of innocent or guilty, it's if he was the first person and it was like, how could you be so silly to have that happen? But he's not. There are plenty of celebrities that this has happened to because they do trust the people around them, or they think they can, and then they are betrayed in that way. So again, however it shakes out, it is something to remember. He's not the first person this has happened to.
yeah, but I was surprised that he actually went that far in his statement, because I really thought it was him going to come out there and say, I can't comment on it because this is an investigation. We have to wait until the investigation. That's what I was totally expecting. But for him to come out and and I think this again is why it was important that it was on camera and that he says it, is so people could see. I feel like he was pretty clear. He was pretty, as demonstrative as he can be, because I do still feel he doesn't show much emotion. But he was very clear saying he never bet on sports, and that he never made the payment, and that he was a victim of theft. He was very clear on those 3 points.
And I guess I would throw out to anybody in the universe, like, how demonstrative do you want him to be? Because everybody handles crises differently. Like, I get angry and I'm a very emotional person. I get angry and I cry, or I get happy and I cry. I am one of those people where my eyes just leak. You get other people, like you hear in the most extreme cases, like somebody is in the middle of potentially a bad situation, a murder or something like that. Well, they didn't react the way that I thought they would. Everybody reacts to crisis and trauma and shock in different ways, and there is no prescribed right way. It's every experience that person has had up until this point shapes them into the person that they are. And so his reaction, I'm just curious, what would people have wanted him to do? Like, and I know you mentioned he tends to not be very demonstrative in general. What do people want from him? And that's not necessarily directed at you, just out into the ether.
It's a good question. And that's the issue, though, Amy, that with the statement, like, I was not expecting it to be as much as he gave. But what has happened now is, as a result of this statement, I'm left with more questions. And I feel like these questions will be answered once the investigation is completed. Like, one of the questions I have is, we still haven't seen proof. There has been reports that Otani's lawyers, his representation, have asked for this theft to be investigated, but we still haven't seen proof that an investigating agency is doing that. What we do know is that the Department of Homeland Security is working with the IRS to investigate eBay, but they won't confirm if they're investigating the Ohtani theft. What we do know is that Boyer, the bookie from Orange County, is being investigated by the Department of Homeland Security, by the IRS, and the U.S. Attorney's Office, and he's been investigated since October. And then one of the things I think we need to clarify in this story, too, is that Boyer has not been arrested yet. So all of this stuff that we are hearing, it's just investigation stuff. Like,
And
none of this stuff is conclusive.
and
Yeah.
because we're not speculating and we're waiting for everything to shake out, this is the first time that Ohtani himself has spoken. So for, all of the conjecture and whatnot, everything else prior to this came through eBay as far as what has been reported. So again, something to take into consideration. This is literally the first time that Shohei has spoken. Whatever has happened with between him and the Dodgers and everybody behind the scenes, obviously we're not privy to that. But from what we know, from what has been reported thus far, and what we have just seen as of yesterday at 2:45, he gave that 12-minute, press conference, and Will Ireton was the one who translated for him.
And like I said, I just have more questions that I feel will be answered once the investigation, like the fact that the Department of Homeland Security is involved. Does this mean that international banks are involved? Like, I'm very curious as to why the Department of Homeland Security is involved in this, but I'm sure that question will be answered later on. But I think just from his statement alone, Amy, these are questions that I have, and I'm curious if you have the same one. How did eBay gain access to Ohtani's bank account? I know everybody has theories about it, but I feel like once the investigation is over, we will have access to that question. I think the other question is who greenlit eBay's initial ESPN interview, in which he claimed that Ohtani paid his gambling debts. Another question is, how do you have millions of dollars in payments evade detection? Like, who's in charge of Ohtani's finances who didn't notice that there's $4.5 million missing from his account or being sent to pay an illegal bookmaker operation?
The
Those
the
are
only
all.
thing I can say to that is I know people who don't balance their checkbook. I am a nerd who I will balance my checkbook every 2 weeks. I'm waiting for it. Go ahead.
Nerd alert! Beware, beware. There is a nerd in the vicinity. Hey man, someone's nerding out over here.
I also have an accounting background, so I do it out of habit from, just how I grew up, my jobs. I do that. I work with people, and the best they do is they check their app maybe once a month to make sure everything's okay. And that to me is appalling. I'm like, well, what if this doesn't clear, or what if this happens? What if somebody steals one of your, I'm not sure everybody's writing checks, but whatever, one of your whatevers. And their answer is like, I just glance at the balance, and as long as it looks right, it's okay. I don't live that way, but there are plenty of people who do. Now you magnify that times millions and billions, and he is either in charge of his money or he's not. These are, again, things that we can all have opinions on. But at the end of the day, however he chose to take care of it is how he chose to run his household. So
Right. And like I said, I think these are the questions that people have, and these questions will be answered eventually once the investigation is completed. So we just have to wait, because everything else, answers to any of these questions, is going to be all speculation until the investigation is completed.
And
And
you
I
don't
think
think
that,
if he's innocent, he wants these questions answered quickly too? He wants to be able to focus on his life, because if he is innocent, wow, this robbed him of his first, the not only the Dodgers, but him of his initial start with this season. And that's unfortunate.
and that's why, and let's make it clear also, it is official. Major League Baseball has announced that they have an investigation into this. The people that have been assigned to that investigation are the same people that handled the investigation in the Astros cheating scandal. They also, I think, they were the same investigators that dealt with the Braves scouting scandal. So they had, and I think it was important for Major League Baseball to put an investigation. Just to your point too, Amy, is if I am a victim here and I'm innocent, I want my name cleared. I want people to say, look, we looked into this. He did nothing wrong. Now, he's still probably going to be convicted in the court of public opinion, and that's because we live in a cesspool. But I think Major League Baseball absolutely had to do this, because if they didn't, I think it was going to look really bad, because it looks like Major League Baseball was turning an eye, giving Ohtani preferential treatment because he is the face of baseball.
Didn't have anything to come. You said what you said.
The only other question I think that will hopefully be answered eventually by the time this, because I think this is part of the reason also that has caused all this problem, is why did Ippei and Ohtani's spokesperson change the first version of their story? Because I think that's what's creating a lot of this problem, is when they first came out and he said that Ohtani knew about it. And then all of a sudden it goes from, no, that's a lie. He
Again,
was ripped off.
all of that information came from Ippei. So
Yeah.
as far as we know up to this point.
But also Ohtani's spokesperson at that time confirmed that. So that's the issue, right? Is why did you guys even come out? Like, I can understand why Ippei did it, but why would Ohtani's spokesperson do that? And then,
well, I'm just going to pose a hypothetical. I'm not saying this is what happened, but if the spokesperson asked Ippei a question, Ippei translates that, or what he wants to translate, to Shohei. Then Shohei gives his answer. Ippei is still in control of the message between both of those people. And the only one person, the person in the middle, knows what the truth is, who's doing the actual interpreting. And again, that's just one hypothetical for how the situation could have shook out. We don't, again, none of this we know. They're going to do an investigation. We're going to find out whatever those people figure out. But even at the end of the day, we still may never know the full picture.
And that's another question that I have. And that is, was Ippei the one doing all the translating? There was nobody else. In terms of the spokesperson, there was nobody else interpreting. If Ippei was the one doing all the translating, then I think the scenario that you just went over right now, that makes sense. So again, it's just more.
Let me have my second interpreter to make sure my first interpreter gave a faithful rendition of what I said. Who's doing that? If you trust your interpreter, it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to tell you what I said. I'm thinking you're faithfully relaying that message, and then vice versa. The fact that you would have to have a backup to your interpreter just to make sure it's a faithful rendition, that puts the whole interpreting community, the integrity and the ethics into question, because you should be able to trust your interpreter. Doc even mentioned, I believe it was today, that it was either today or yesterday, that Ippei was a buffer between the organization and Shohei. It was difficult at times to communicate, and the hope is that there will be more direct communication now. Again, anybody can spin that angle however they want, the innocent, the guilty, whatever. It's what Doc said. Take from it what you will.
No, I mean, the last question that I have, and again, I'm hoping it will be answered. And I'm naive to this because I'm not a gambler. I absolutely, the extent of my gambling is buying lottery tickets. But I've heard a lot of people say this, and that is, which bookmaker would extend $1 million of credit to someone? Like, if this guy ran up a $4.5 million debt, and it's like, who in their right mind would allow this guy to continue to make these bets unless they knew it was going to be backed up? So that's something that eventually will be answered. But I think these are all questions that are just brought up. You're nodding your head.
There's so much speculation, and I understand your questions, but I just this just makes me shake my head. Go on.
No, I mean, look, I think the problem is, and it's because of the first version of the story that came out. That's the issue, because the cat is out of the bag, the genie's out of the bottle. At that point, you go and you change your story now, and that's not sitting right with people. One of the things we have to remind everybody is that Ohtani, Ippei, they have not been charged with crimes. Boyer hasn't even been charged with a crime yet, and he's the bookie. You know, yes, federal agents raided his home as part of the investigation, but the investigation is ongoing. So I think it's okay to have those questions. I just don't think if you have answers to those questions, that is speculation at this point until we have the investigation. So that to me is I'm putting it out there in terms of what Ohtani said, because I did not expect him to say as much as he did. The fact that the lawyers allowed him to read that statement, I would have to say they're pretty confident, because I'm thinking, hey, a bank could probably track where a wire transfer came from and where it went to. So if his lawyers are going to let him read that statement, I'm sure then they must feel pretty confident that they got nothing on him. Because if they do find something on him, this statement is going to look horrible, because it's going to be like, dude, you lied. God, you're so better than I am. You're so much better than I am.
No, it's not even that. You get to have your questions. I guess, like, what makes me shake my head is just, there's, and not coming from you. I understand where your questions are coming from, but just all the stuff that we're seeing on Twitter, there's just, it's the majority of it is so negative, and it's like, all right, that's fine. You want to speculate, but where is all the positive speculation? That feels like that's in the minority. And it's like, if you're going to speculate and be unbiased, because we don't have the facts, not you, Juan, but just the general you, like, okay, so where's your other side? Where's your devil's advocate on that? Because if you're just going to swing negative, then that just, to me, tells me you've already made up your mind about this and we don't have all the facts. Where it's like, okay, keep an open mind. It could be this, but it also could be that. And that's what I feel like is missing, is that equality in the message, in the speculation, in everything that's running rampant out there. And I think that's what causes me to shake my head, is like, okay, great. It's another conspiracy theory in the negative column. Great. We've got 20 in the negative column and we've got 3 in the maybe positive kind of column. And it's like, okay, so much for keeping an open mind, everybody.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, because I feel all those questions that I just ran off to you, if the investigation answers all those questions, then all those people who don't believe them, then what are they going to do? Because then it's exactly what you just said, where it's just like, okay, dude, the facts don't matter to you. You just want this story to be true. Okay. And if that's the case, then there's nothing I can do for you.
And that's what I feel like we're getting a preview of right now, where it's like, and that makes me sad. However it shakes out, let's say he is innocent. That makes me sad that he would carry that tarnish with him because of public opinion, when, we'll never know. And there will be the people, and here I don't want to speculate. So I just hope that the investigation yields enough information that we can all be satisfied with our questions.
Absolutely. You want me to cheer you up? I'm going to cheer you up with this story. The Major League Baseball players seem to be wanting to run Tony Clark out of the being the head of the Major League Baseball Players Association. Does that cheer you up?
I mean, chaos inside, damaging the player's strength and dividing the union? Not really.
Like, I feel like this is an important story, and it has just completely been just demolished by the Shohei story, right? It is just completely. I mean, this is something I think that has been brewing for a while. Amy, can you set it up for our viewers, our listeners who aren't familiar with what's happening with Tony Clark and this struggle that is developing with the Major League Baseball Players Association?
So Tony Clark is the executive director, the head of the MLBPA, the MLB Players Association. His number 2 right-hand man is Bruce Meyer, a lawyer who they worked together to negotiate the last collective bargaining agreement. Apparently, there's been a contingent of players who have asked to remove Meyer as the lawyer and potentially replace him with Harry Marino. So Harry is a younger lawyer. He's 33 years old. He led the unionization of the minor league. And apparently the players have made up to 3 requests for this at this point. And some of the complaints are around the collective bargaining agreement, especially in light of the JD Davis story that we covered a little while ago with that loophole with the Giants releasing him after he won his arbitration. How the union is generally run, concerns about lack of communication that range from poor vision to questionable budgeting. So they're also seeking an audit of the union spending. And so it's come out that Marino is not seeking Clark's job, but they do want kind of some sort of balance to be restored. So potentially, I think to remove Clark, it would take the 72 player vote, which is 38 major leaguers and then 38 minor leaguers. And then now that's breeding its own issues because some players are like, well, why do minor leaguers have the same, power vote as the major leaguers? And that could impact, things down the road, like our salaries and things. And so it's chaos.
And I mean, there was reporting, and did you see this, that some of those players, I mean, those both major leaguers and minor leaguers, I don't know if this is the right term, but are being bullied or being like threatened because they came forward with their complaints. Amy, when I first saw this, first of all, I think like the owners are eating this up. The owners love this, where it's just like
Division in the ranks.
Yeah, but part of me feels like, and this has been stemming, I think, last offseason too. The fact now, when breaking news at the time of this recording, Jordan Montgomery has finally signed. So I think the three biggest holdouts, Blake Snell, JD Martinez, Jordan Montgomery, have now all signed. You can throw in Cody Bellinger in this, and that is the fact that those guys may. Here's the thing, the annual average salary is still high. It is very high. The thing that is missing is the years. They're not getting the number of years that is being reported that they were seeking. And that's the other thing, is we don't have confirmation. Like, are those numbers real, or is that who's making up this stuff? But I'm
Well, we know
wondering.
they probably weren't seeking only 1-year deals, and the fact that they're late getting ramped up, like Jordan Montgomery missed all of spring training, at least with the team. And so Snell is still behind. He's not going to
He's not
start
going to be ready. Yeah.
No. And so that's impacting the start of these players' season, the teams, that are going to be playing with these guys. Like there are a lot of repercussions that this hits. And regardless of what maybe they were wanting, I mean, I don't know, maybe they were looking for 1-year deals, but that's typically not how free agency works. Most people want to lock down a more lucrative contract.
Yeah, so when I read this story, I think part of it to me just this is stemming from the frustration of the players not getting the deals that we're getting back in the past. And again, I don't know if this is the market correcting itself. I don't know if this is collusion. I know a lot of people don't like the use of that word. Because again, people will then argue, Juan, how can there be collusion if these guys are getting a higher annual salary? But I know Geeke has been a guy who has been very vocal in terms of his frustration on why it's taking so long. We just recently had the NFL had their free agent signing, and it was a whole litany of players that within a day or two were already signed. So it seems like the other sports now, to be fair, those are other sports that have salary caps, or in some cases, a version of a salary cap with a hard cap. So I think we don't talk about that enough as to why those deals get done, because you're pretty much already slotting, like, you're going to make this much money. This is how much I can offer you. Baseball doesn't have a salary cap. So I think that's part of the reason why this gets hard. But
And it's
seeing
been
all
argued in the past that some of the players, like, they don't necessarily want to do it that way because of the lack of salary cap. That just benefits the owners if they have let's just say, a 2-week stint to sign. Well, I want to be able to drive my own price up because there isn't a cap. And if you confine me in this small time period, I might potentially go for a lower rate. And now we're seeing, like you said, is it the market correcting itself? They're going for a lower rate anyway, potentially, even if it is still a high AAR. But here we are.
And someone smarter than I am is going to have to explain to me how the market correcting itself is different than collusion. Um, in the sense, I know collusion is a scary word because it's like, oh, Juan, you watch too many Oliver Stone movies. Are these owners getting together and being like, hey, man, we're not going to do this anymore because it got out of hand. Somehow we gotta ring it in. But it is interesting that you have this division in the ranks in the Major League Baseball Players Association. I hope this story gets involved because gets resolved because I've always felt that the baseball union was the strongest union in this country, and I would hate for the union to lose its strength as a result of the fact that maybe it's just the fact that it mirrors society a little too closely, Amy, where the haves they're loving it. They're getting rich and the have-nots just keep. And I know this is like, but again, we can't compare this to society because it's like, Juan, like the average player is making $1 million. If you can't live on $1 million, then what's going on? I am a supporter of players. I feel players should get paid.
It's also a quality of life too. These guys are giving up 9+ months out of the year to play a sport away from their homes, away from their families. If they don't have a family, away from just their life in general, they are giving up a lot of that. And so, if they're going to perform on this stage, they're getting a salary commensurate to that.
Yeah. In the words of the great Patrick Ewing, yeah, we make a lot of money, but we also spend a lot of money. So I hope nobody in Major League Baseball uses that argument. But it is a story.
Don't think that really fits, but yes.
He literally said that. He literally
No. I know. And see, I always look at it too from, they're making a lot of money, but the wear and tear on their bodies, their quality of life later in life, that's like their back end insurance policy of, like I just have normal wear and tear as somebody in my 40s. Like these guys, by the time they hit their 40s, are going to have 10 times more. To me, just at a very base level, that salary helps cover some of just the physical stuff. Not to mention just, they give up a good portion of their life from the time they're in, baseball as a kid, high school, and so on. They don't really start their lives till later on. And, if that's what they're giving up, we get the benefit, they get the benefit, and everybody gets to watch baseball.
Yeah, I hope this doesn't continue. But it does seem that there was a point where the players' union was so powerful, but it seems the last couple collective bargaining agreements they've been losing a little bit each and every time. So the only way I think that's going to stop is that they're unified. So this is a story that we're going to keep an eye on, and we will continue to update you on this story as the season progresses. Last thing before we go, there was something that I think it was today, right? That this story broke in regards to Major League Baseball teams and their relationships with other professional international leagues.
Yeah, go for it. I know we're kind of hitting time here, so go ahead and summarize it.
So it was basically reported that Major League Baseball teams have been informed that their Major League Baseball's relationship with other countries' professional leagues has been terminated to avoid pre-negotiation tampering. So this includes the NPB, KBO, CPBL, and the Liga Mexicana Baseball. One of the things that would need to be clarified, and this, I think Jeff Passan deserves credit for this of ESPN for clarifying this. This new rule restricts the relationship between Major League Baseball teams and their foreign counterparts. So in other words, no more partnerships like the one that the Arizona Diamondbacks have with Yokohama, but the agreements between Major League Baseball and foreign leagues, like the posting system, those still remain. So I understand why if one team specifically has, like the Diamondbacks, have a relationship with Yokohama, I can understand how that could be viewed as tampering, because it's like you're basically just negotiating between the two of you, and no other team will have a fair chance to negotiate with those. So that's another story to keep an eye on. That just recently came out, and I thought that was interesting because we're having a moment with international players. There is a Japanese player who we don't know if he's going to be posted next year, Sasaki, that I know a lot of people would be interested in. The fact that Passon went ahead and clarified that this is not going to affect the posting system, I think was important to report. I know we covered a lot on this episode, and we are a little bit of a chatterboxes on this, but these are all stories that were important to us, guys, so we wanted to talk about them. We promise you our next episode, which is going to be a preview of the season, will be more baseball focused. Amy, any last words before we say goodbye?
Opening day is almost here. Yay.
There you have it, folks. So let's end it with some business here. If you've been listening to us on the podcast, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, and to make sure you write us a review and rate us. Help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, give us a thumbs up, leave us comments. We love engaging with you guys. We love hearing your comments. And finally, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, Threads, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amy Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You have been listening, watching Baseball Shangri-La. We'll see you next time. Amy, say goodbye to the people.
Bye, people.